Hey folks, Eric Stacklebeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. Before we head into the weekend, I wanted to bring you one more update on the unfolding situation with Iran. Obviously, we're all watching now and waiting. Will he or won't he is the big question everyone has, in particular the Ayatollahs in Tehran, as to whether President Trump will take action, decisive military action against the Iranian regime. Could this be the weekend? We don't know. But there are rumblings for sure in Israel in particular where there seems to be anticipation of a U.S. attack. And who knows, possibly that attack on Iran would involve Israel as well. We don't know, but anticipation is building. It may not happen this weekend. It may not happen at all. But I can tell you that anticipation from people I talk to on the ground in Israel is certainly building. Here's the state of play right now. The U.S. right now has, President Trump calls it an armada, and with good reason, folks. Listen to this. The U.S. has now deployed 6 destroyers along with an aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, and 3 other combat ships to the Middle East. And the plot thickens because one of the ships right now has docked in Israel. This is from Eilat, from the city of Eilat, the southernmost city in Israel on the Gulf of Aqaba, the Red Sea. A U.S. Navy destroyer made a port visit on Friday to the southern Israeli city of Eilat on the Gulf of Aqaba as the U.S. surges military forces in the Middle East amid rising tensions with Iran. Now, the footage showed that it was the USS Delbert D. Black, one of 6, as I mentioned, U.S. destroyers now in the Middle East, along with an aircraft carrier and 3 other literal combat ships. Israeli media reported that the arrival of the destroyer at the Red Sea city near Israel's borders with Egypt and Jordan was pre-planned and part of ongoing cooperation between the U.S. and Israeli militaries. Now, we saw similar cooperation, but much more under the veil, so to speak, back in June in the run-up to the 12-day war, right? And it was the great swerve. That's why I called it here on the Watchman. You had President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, at least publicly telegraphing tension and making it seem like the U.S. and Israel were not on the same page. The mainstream media, of course, picked up that ball and ran with it, ran with what turned out to be a very false narrative, needless to say. And President Trump also, which brings us up to today, January 30th, 2026, President Trump also in the run-up to that strike, the 12-day war, and then the incredible U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear sites, Operation Midnight Hammer. If you remember, President Trump gave that mixed messaging, right? One day he would say, hey, we really want to reach a deal with Iran. We don't want to use military force. Then the very next day, he would say, Iran, we're going to unleash hell upon your heads. And every day it was back and forth, kind of like a yo-yo, up and down. What's he going to do? Which way will he go? And I can tell you, not only was the mainstream media, surprise, surprise, but Iran's leadership, by the time the 12-day war rolled around and it launched on June 13th, 2025, by the time that commenced, the mainstream media, Iran's leadership, they were convinced that Trump was not going to get involved. And not only that, that he was preventing Israel from striking Iran. And not only that, that Israel would not dare strike Iran without Donald Trump's approval and green light. Guess what? He had very much so, Israel had, I should say, President Trump's green light and approval all along. They've been planning for months behind the scenes, the U.S. and Israel, to conduct this onslaught against Iran's regime, against its nuclear sites, and against its ballistic missile program. Fast forward to today and why that is relevant today with the current crisis. Bibi Netanyahu has been at the White House, either White House or Mar-a-Lago, meeting with President Trump in the past year alone, folks, less than a year even. Starting in the first week of February 2025, he was the first world leader to meet with President Trump. And since then, I believe it is no less than 6 times, count them, 6, on both sides of the pond that Trump and Netanyahu have met 6 times in 11 months. Call me crazy, but there's some pretty close coordination going on there. Needless to say, you had an Israeli military chief in the U.S. this week meeting with his U.S. leaders, the head of Mossad last week meeting with U.S. leaders, and vice versa. We have U.S. military leaders in Israel meeting with officials there. There's close coordination. And if you talk to U.S. officials, in particular, David Friedman, the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, the current U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, both friends of mine, I'm proud to say, they will tell you, man, we knew the cooperation was deep, but it's even deeper than we knew between the U.S. and Israel. There's not daylight there under a Trump administration. Let's just say that. The Biden administration, different story. But under a President Trump, who's the most pro-Israel president in American history, and there's been no president tougher than Trump on Iran, that regime, by the way, there's no daylight. They're on the same page. Yes, there are public pronouncements. Are there some points of disagreement? Sure. Gaza, different things. But on the big, big issues, when you're talking Gaza, disarming Hamas, no disagreement there, things like that. Iran can't have the bomb. Iran can't slaughter 40,000 people, according to some accounts. Some accounts say even more in the span of 3 weeks. Iran can't arm itself to the teeth with ballistic missiles that threaten Israel, America, and the world, including intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. So in everything big, no doubt, and most of the other things too, Israel and the U.S., under President Trump at least, are on the same page. That brings us to today. And again, the smoke screens and the mixed messaging and the mixed signals from Donald Trump when it comes to Iran and dealing with the mullahs in Tehran. And let me preface it by saying, look, some say India, but many also say Iran, ancient Persia, by the way, modern day Iran, ancient Persia, from your Bible, helpful reminder, was the birthplace of the game of chess. And no doubt, Iran's leaders, these wicked ayatollahs, this wicked demonic regime, this Islamic death cult that has lorded over that country for the past 47 years, no doubt they have proven to be master chess players. And I hate to say it, but they are very clever, shall we say, in a sinister, demonic way. The motto for President Reagan in the Cold War, dealing with the Soviet Union, was trust, but verify. When you're dealing with Iran's leaders, don't trust, but verify. And they have hoodwinked the world, the Obama administration, Exhibit A, right? That Iran nuclear deal, the negotiations between Iran and the West, we're talking US, France, Britain, Germany, dragged on and on for years. John Kerry dutifully transatlantic flights to meet with Iranian representatives, the Iranian foreign minister Javad Zarif, in those glory days of 2012, 2013, 2014. And then the Iran nuclear deal is struck in 2015, an all-time foreign policy disaster. Again, the Western world, Western leaders hoodwinked by the Iranian regime, the master chess players. Well, now they have more than met their match in Donald J. Trump. Let's just say the art of the deal, there's the art of the deal, Iranian regime style, then there's the art of the deal, Donald Trump style. And he has succeeded, I think, in really, other than Israel, by the way, other than Israel under Bibi Netanyahu, few other world leaders, if any, have been able to kind of throw the Iranian regime off balance. Donald Trump has succeeded in doing exactly that. Israel has as well, clearly, since October 7th in particular. They have completely baffled and confused and harmed Iran's regime and its interest at every turn. But Trump is a completely different individual than the Ayatollahs have ever dealt with over the past 47 years. And they don't know whether they're coming or going, or should I say whether he's coming or going. Here's what he said today. And again, this is after just yesterday, or on Wednesday, I'm sorry, tweeting that essentially, I'm paraphrasing, But you can sum up these Truth Social posts from President Trump by saying, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, we will unleash hell upon your heads. To Venezuela, to Iran, to Hamas, etc. But here's what Trump said today. As, again, U.S. forces are in the region now, essentially surrounding Iran. President Donald Trump said Friday, I'm just reading this off my phone from the Times of Israel, quoting it directly. U.S. President Donald Trump said Friday that he had given Iran a deadline to make a deal as Washington moved significant military assets to the Middle East ahead of a potential strike on the Islamic Republic. Asked by reporters in the Oval Office whether he'd set a deadline for Iran before a potential strike, Trump confirmed that he had communicated directly to Iran, a deadline directly to Tehran, adding, quote, Trump said, only they, Iran's leaders, know for sure what the deadline is. He did not reveal the timing of the deadline. Asked if there was a timeline for when the U.S. forces in the region might pull back, Trump was non-committal. They have to float someplace, he said. They might, only Trump. They have to float someplace, he said. They might as well float near Iran. Gotta love the guy. He reiterated his, quote, appreciation of the regime's purported calling off of over 800 executions of anti-government protesters. Now, Trump knows. Again, it's a mixed messaging. Oh, we really appreciate them calling off those executions. He knows that they're going to carry out those executions. He knows that they're just biding time, Iran's leaders. There's no way, and God forbid, there's no way they wouldn't follow through and execute these poor people in Iran. They've already slaughtered in cold blood some 40,000 at least. So he knows. I love that. They got to float somewhere. Why not near Iran? About this armada, as he called it. But again, he's like, look, I'm giving you a deadline. I've given them a deadline, I can talk, sorry, that only they know. I want to talk more about that. This isn't the first deadline Trump has given to Iran, and it might give us an indication of where this is headed. I'm going to break that down in a minute. Before I do, if you like what you're hearing, current events, breaking news, chiefly out of Israel and the Middle East, but we go around the horn, around the world, Venezuela, Europe, Russia, China, America, and beyond. If you like that, be sure to subscribe. Click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, we're 1.1 million subscribers. We're right there now. And it's for such a time as this. We believe God's going to continue to expand our territory so we can get this message of truth out there. And we do it from an unapologetically biblical perspective. Imagine that. So if you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe. And again, the notification bell is important because, look, if things break tonight, tomorrow morning, tomorrow night, Sunday, we're coming to you live right here on the channel. No doubt. So keep it here. You won't want to miss our live breaking news updates as this very fluid situation continues to play out. Okay, I mentioned deadlines. If you recall, and people, I laugh at this because Trump has said it, Secretary Rubio has said it repeatedly in the past few weeks, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, has said it. President Trump is a man of his word. You might not like him, but you have to admit, when the guy says he's going to do something, he does it. And he did it again and again during his first term when it came to dealing with the Islamist threat, whether ISIS or Iran. And he's done it in his second term. Look no further than the destruction of Iran's nuclear program and then the apprehension, shall we say, of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. So he's a man of his word. The guy means business. He's not someone who just blows smoke and then backs down and lets bad actors cross his red lines. All that said, clearly, the Iranian regime has crossed every red line that President Trump has set out. Don't slaughter your own people. Don't slaughter any more protesters, or we're coming for you. Well, guess what? They completely ignored him, thumbed their noses at him, and they've slaughtered, folks, greater numbers than we've seen since Pol Pot in Cambodia, the killing fields there during the 1970s. Mao, the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward, as he called it, during the 60s, 70s. Stalin, throughout his bloody reign, killing millions of their own countrymen. We haven't seen butchery of a government's own people, although I wouldn't consider the Iranian people the own people, so to speak, of this wicked, demonic government, which they despise. 80% of the Iranian people stand against this regime. That's what the polls have shown. And it's probably closer to 95 now that they've been slaughtering people in the streets. But these are the killing fields of Iran. Folks, I have such righteous anger about this. I'm composing myself here. I can't put it into words. The beautiful people of Iran, I know many, incredible culture, Persia. Think of Iran before Islam arrived in particular. The Persian Empire. I mean, from your Bible, Esther, Mordecai, Darius, Cyrus, Ezra, Nehemiah. Iran, ancient Persia, modern day Iran, is a Bible land. This is a great people, a proud people. The church is growing there. Iranian Christians are growing by leaps and bounds. It's the fastest growing church in the world. Be encouraged, because the church in Iran is growing faster than any church anywhere in the world. You might say, how's that possible? Because Iran's regime is the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism. Number one, because you can't stop the gospel. History has shown that. And number two, because the courageous Iranian believers are worshiping underground. They know if they worship above ground, obviously, in the open, in the light, so to speak, they'll be arrested, tortured, imprisoned, murdered, executed. So they're doing it in secret, but they're doing it, and they're doing it in larger and larger numbers. It's an incredible, largely untold story, what's happening with the Iranian believers. Folks, let me just say, God is not done with Iran. And prophetically, you look at Jeremiah 49 and what God's going to do there in Iran. He loves the people of Iran. The leadership, he loathes in Iran, no doubt. And justice is coming. The moment of reckoning, I believe, is here. It's upon us. And prophetically, in terms of Ezekiel, that war of Gog and Magog, Persia is named in there. I know it. But in the short term, this regime needs to go. And it's never been weaker than it is right now. It's teetering on the brink. It needs a push over the edge from the United States so that it ends up in the ash heap of history. That I will say. But the people of Iran, the main victims of this regime, the world yawns. They cry and weep and gnash their teeth about a false genocide in Gaza and phony war crimes that never occurred in Gaza. But the real thing's happening in Iran. Where's Greta Thunberg now and her flotilla? As 40,000 people have been slaughtered in cold blood for the crime of crying out for their freedom. There's no Jews involved. That's a difference here. If the Iranian regime were Jews, the world would be all over this story. Let's be honest, and we know it's the truth. But it's pathetic and shameful, and it's a sign. The silence on Iran, on the genocide in Iran, is a sign of the times. We live in times the prophet Isaiah described very accurately, where good is called evil and evil is called good. Bible times. That's what we're in. But the deal, remember, and people scoffed at this, Trump, early 2025, well, I guess it was around April 2025, late April or so. And I'm scratching my head saying, what's he doing? He said, look, I'm giving the Iranian regime 60 days to agree to a deal, to give up their nuclear weapons program. After 60 days, all bets are off. Now, let's be honest. Most people said, it's all bluster. He's not going to do anything. Well, guess what? Trump meant what he said. 60 days went by. On day 61, the 12-day war began. 60 days went by. And then Israel said, Trump said to Israel, do what you got to do. They missed the deadline. They refused to disarm. Do what you got to do. They refused to give up the nuclear weapons program. They refused to cut down that ballistic missile program. Not just cut down. They need to eliminate. That ballistic missile program needs to go completely. They refused. And Trump said, okay, 60 days is up. You missed the deadline. 12-day war commences, and it ends with Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. destruction of Iran's nuclear weapons facilities. After, of course, Israel, during the first days of the war, had some major blows against those nuclear sites as well. So He kept his word. When Trump gives a deadline, he keeps the deadline. And Iran learned that the hard way. But here's the thing, and he's got this deadline now. He may have said to Iran by the end of the weekend. We don't know. We'll find out soon. Here's the thing. The Iranian regime has not gotten the memo. Trump, dating back to his first term, look, took out the Iranian terror master, Qasem Soleimani, pulled out of that disastrous Iran nuclear deal, designated Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps as a terrorist organization. The list goes on in terms of the blows he dealt upon the Iranian regime. Now in his second term, destroys the nuclear facilities, completely unshackles Israel to do what it needs to do. And by the way, Israel on high alert right now because Iran has said if we're hit and war breaks out, we're hitting Israel. And Israel, in advance of that, has been striking Hezbollah in a pretty serious way over the past 24 to 48 hours, making sure Hezbollah doesn't throw its hat in the ring if and when war breaks out in Iran. Because look, if Iran feels like, if the regime feels like it's in danger of collapsing, folks, look, they're looking at a blaze of glory. They're going to go out, they're going to fire everything they have. That's a very plausible scenario. So Israel's getting its missile defenses in order. So is the U.S., of course, in the region as it moves assets into the region, certainly coordinating with Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan in particular. The Saudis are making some very troubling moves as of late. That is something for another newscast, another live stream next week, I believe. The Abraham Accords in trouble here. We're all excited about Saudis and Israel. Perhaps, okay, this is going to be a new day, normalization. Well, the Saudis have taken a troubling turn in recent months back towards the Islamist wing. I'm going to break that down for you soon. That's a big deal. But the deadline is given. Israel's on high alert. They're ready. The U.S. is ready. Iran is saying, look, Iran's MO, because the Ayatollah is a fanatical true believer. I unpacked this on a live stream the other day. He is a true believer in this 12er ideology, so to speak. The 12th Imam is going to return, the Islamic Messiah, and lead the armies of Islam to victory over the Christians and Jews, with Iran as the tip of the spear. He really believes it. And this isn't a guy who wants to compromise. We're past the point of compromise now. And even if some sort of deal were struck and the regime stayed in power, I mean, you thought they were hated by the Iranian people before. Now they just massacred tens of thousands of the Iranian people. It's only a matter of time before a new round of demonstrations breaks out, and the regime, they're living on borrowed time. So I can't see any scenario in which President Trump doesn't follow through on what he promised to do to help the Iranian people and to push this regime out the door. I don't know the nature of the strikes, smaller scale, larger scale. It's all being deliberated right now, reportedly. We don't know. But prayers right now for wisdom and discernment for President Trump. The guy literally has the weight of the world on his shoulders, right? As the leader of the free world. He's the man for the job for this hour. Prayers for God's hedge of protection, his divine Iron Dome over Israel, over the U.S. forces in the region, over everyone in the region, and over the Iranian people in particular, as this wicked regime might try to go out with a blast, quite literally. But the Iranian people, folks, pray night and day for them. They are courageous, and they have such potential in Iran. This is not some backwater. This is a people with a proud, ancient, long-standing history, highly educated people, and a great future could lie ahead in a post-Islamic age in Iran. Keep it all in prayer. Great having you with us. Have a great weekend. Again, if anything happens, we're coming to you live, so make sure you're subscribed, have the notification bell on. Until next time, keep it all in prayer. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.